Cool. So today I'm going to be talking about how my involvement within sorority fraternity life at my undergraduate institution really launched my student affairs career and what that consists of. So to start, I initially never really planned on joining a fraternity. It wasn't something that I thought would be for me, and truthfully, I really didn't know what it was. So I had been talking to a few people, and they told me that I would be a good fit for a particular organization. So I ended up, the night before formal recruitment began, I said I wasn't going to do it, didn't plan to. And a friend that lived on my floor told me that her biggest regret was that she didn't join sooner. So I said, you know what, there's really no harm in trying. So I ended up going. And really, in that, I learned about the positive values and the benefits that you could get from joining a Greek organization. Since neither of my parents had gone to college, I didn't really know what those values or the benefits are. Specifically, that they are values-based organizations, that you would be talking about scholarship, that you're talking about involvement, you're talking about community service, all the ideals of what these organizations should be doing. And in my view at the time, what they were giving people and how they were using that to benefit their college experience. So really, it was through the beginnings in that organization that led me to get further involved on campus. So one of the men in the organization was a campus tour guide. So in that process, me and another member of my new member class ended up joining the campus admissions team. So I worked for 4 years as a tour guide on campus and was able to become one of the tour guide managers. So throughout the 4 years, by the time I graduated, the only men that were, there were only two men that weren't affiliated with my fraternity that were campus tour guides. So it was really cool to help bring people into the organization and get to know other people in that way. Additionally, I ended up joining the campus orientation team. So that was a great way for me to really understand kind of another area of student affairs and student involvement that I previously had only seen as a first year student. And then every year, my fraternity does a faculty dinner where each member will invite a faculty or staff member to the dinner as kind of their guest. So it was my junior year that I was able to invite someone who was a hall director in our specific area. And she really started the conversation with me that I can expand my experience more than Ashland University, that there is this world of student affairs that people can do as a career. And that was really the first time I was hearing about that. So she kind of gave me an idea that a good place to start would be through a NOTA internship. So I didn't know what NOTA was. So NOTA is the National Orientation Directors Association and Center for Retention. So it is that, you know, the ability to be placed at an institution that's not your own and have that experience. So for me, I applied to all of the places that didn't have an educational component to them. So that was 7 institutions, since it was between my junior and senior year of undergrad. Didn't hear back, had one interview and didn't hear back after that. So I kind of thought that that ship had sailed. It wasn't going to be something that was for me anymore. And I did end up hearing a call in April from Baldwin Wallace University that asked if I was still interested. And this was really interesting to me because Baldwin Wallace is about 15 minutes from my house. So kind of, you know, grew up into my backyard growing up from the area. And I was fortunate enough that they took a chance on me. And in this work, I found a mentor. His name is Mark West. He's the dean of first-year students at Baldwin Wallace, and he was my direct supervisor through this experience. And he has been absolutely instrumental in the education that I've received in terms of what this work is, and that grad school was an option for me, what to be looking for in a graduate school program. And talking through really what like functional areas would be exciting to me, what would be the options that I wanted to pursue. And the internship I had at BW was fantastic. And I was able to actually do it again between my senior year and my first year here at Ohio. And that was, again, just a very helpful, informative experience. But for me, it helped me settle on a functional area. And as fun as orientation was, and as much as I enjoyed it, I didn't think that necessarily would be my area of focus. So for me, it was looking at masculinity in fraternities. So part of my academic program, my senior year, was that I had to write and defend a senior capstone thesis. So for me specifically, I decided to look at contemporary masculinity and its intersection with college fraternities. So this was an idea, and this idea of contemporary masculinity was something I, pardon me, that had been thinking about for several years. There's a book called Season of Life by Richard Marx, who he is looking at the time he spent with Pastor Joe Ehrman, who was at the time a Baltimore Colts NFL professional football player and became a pastor and a high school football coach. And through his work, through the spirituality and through coaching, he found that there are three tenets of masculinity that men often adhere to, and he calls these false tenets of masculinity. So those being sexual promiscuity or sexual conquest, athletic ability, and economic success to the point or a fault. So looking at each of those, they really can coalesce in fraternity life. That oftentimes there is the expectation that there is a nature of sexual conquest, and that is how you adhere to masculinity. It's how you get that sense of masculinity. Often there can be that desire for athletic ability, but it can be transposed to looking at one's physical constitution and how much they can drink, how much hazing they can endure, and that really is what the physical aspect of it. And then there's that idea of economic success and that idea of privilege, and that oftentimes and historically there has been a lot of privilege associated with these organizations, whether that be white privilege, male privilege, socioeconomic class, and how that interplays to it, and that sense of elitism that can sometimes arrive from these organizations. So that is how I started to look at why fraternities specifically exist behaviors. And that really brought me to the IFC position here at Ohio University, and the idea that if I can look at a position at a growing up in Ohio, a historically popular school in terms of partying culture, in terms of drinking culture, and a lot of those negative aspects of masculinity and of fraternities, I thought it would be a great way for me to bolster my experience and be able to incorporate some of the research and some of the passion areas that I have as a graduate student. So really, my experience with the Interfraternity Council and how it's going to prep me for the future is it's a very dynamic position, which has related to a variety of functional areas and campus partners. So we'll work with health promotions, we will work with housing and residence life, career services, catering, recreation services. And each day can be really unique in the ability that I have as an advisor, because the programming doesn't change, it doesn't stay the same from year to year. The expectations don't stay the same from year to year. We have been trying to increase our level of risk reduction. We've been looking to mitigate the negative behaviors that have been exhibited in the community. So that really has prepared me to work with different campus partners and different core groups. It also allows me to incorporate and to find ways to include my passion of masculinity and address those false tenets of masculinity that are in fraternities, whether that be through me speaking with different groups or chapters, whether that be me in the spring. We're going to be doing a lecture series. So my aspect is going to be talking about contemporary masculinity and its relation to college fraternities. So I'm really excited to bite something off with that. It's allowed me to be the voice as the Mile Together Planning Committee, as the voice of sorority and fraternity life, how we can incorporate this so that our communities and our members are working to be helping and hope for the change rather than being and contributing to the problem. So definitely the experiences that I've had in this position have developed really a myriad of skills and competencies which that I can then incorporate into another functional area if I decide to change, or if I want to continue in this functional area. I know that a lot of them have transferable skills, and I feel that I'd be ready to really jump into anything, but ideally that I can continue to be impactful in the work with contemporary fraternities and that idea of modern masculinity.
All right, and is that the end of your presentation?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so That was really awesome. Do you mind going back to the beginning of your presentation? The
Sure.
first one?
The first slide.
Yeah. So I like how you started out with your fraternity involvement, how like someone encouraged you to do it. I think the only part that kind of threw me off was your note internship with Baldwin Wallace. It didn't really go, I don't think it really came into like your sorority and fraternity life experience.
Sure.
So I understand like it was good for you to like weed it out and see what you liked and what you didn't like, and like you were able to talk about your great experiences there, and you also were able to gain a mentor. I think if you were going to talk about Baldwin Wallace, maybe just say I received a mentor at that institution one summer, and he helped me get to where I am today.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I suppose it kind of like it's almost like a tangent, and it's not super necessary. If I'm using fraternity story life as the overarching, like kind of overarching theme, that this kind of seems like I could just be adding that to almost like extend what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I think that was the only thing that really stuck out to me. I like your experience that you did have, being able to write about it, going from your senior year, even going until now, being in your grad school. I like that. Um, and then did you, when you did your grad school process, did you do any other interviews with any other schools for IFC, or was just the only one?
You mean like at other schools, like for a position within fraternity story life there?
Did you apply to any other grad schools, or just this your only one?
No, I applied to a few others, and I was trying to tailor my search to schools that did have openings that were scheduled to be with fraternity story life. For example, Indiana University of Pennsylvania and Grand Valley State, they both have positions within the fraternity community that I was interested in. So that was like one of the areas that I was tailoring my search to.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, I think like just the only constructive criticism I can give you um is the Baldwin Walls position that just really didn't connect to your like you said, your overarching PowerPoint and your plan. But what you were able to talk about IFC and like how you've been able to grow into it and all that, that was really good.
Do you
Um,
think it would make sense to, instead of like having the Baldwin Wallace, talking more so about like the grad school search itself and how that was the kind of like what you were just saying, like it's the driving, like that was something I was specifically looking for, incorporating that and talking about the search and that kind of like how that's pushed me along, because I guess that's a little more related.
yeah, I think you can touch on that. But I think just mostly just staying on your journey of what you've gone through.
Oh, that makes sense too.
Touch on like, oh, I looked at these other schools, they had fraternity positions, but it didn't work out for me. And then talk more about like, go into more detail about what you've done in Ohio, because that's like what you're doing currently.
Yeah.
And that's what jobs are going to want to know when you do apply, if you have to do a presentation like this. So they're going to want to know exactly like, Christmas time before Christmas break, I had an event with this many guys, and we donated X, Y, and Z, and then we hosted a dinner. So I think they're going to want to know that, like more
Yeah, like
specifics.
the more tangible stuff.
Yes. Because
Okay.
you have all the stuff, you have all the experience. I think you just need to go in more depth.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense for sure.
Um, yeah, and then at the end, I think you could talk about. Okay, yeah, you did talk about so your future. So did you say? Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you mention what future job you're looking for?
I didn't mention specific positions. No. But I did. I talked about ideally that I am within fraternity story life. I know there was a position that was in October that I was interested in at Iowa State, but it wasn't super good timing or anything like that. But
Mhm.
ideally, looking at like a position within fraternity story life, yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then, um, I guess just like if I was an employer, My question to you would be like, how do you deal with the negative rep of fraternity and sorority life? And like, how did you deal with the hazing allegations when it happened in Ohio?
Yeah, no, I think those would be a fair question. Ideally, probably we talk about that idea of values-based organizations and that we have to make the transition back to being these values-based organizations where ideally that's the founding, right? You know, you're founded on these ideals, on these values, founded on behaviors and morals, and that's really fallen away along the time path that we have conspired around here moving forward. And definitely that it's like if you look at how to mitigate risk, how to reduce risk, you really need to start interior out. That by talking with, and similar with the hazing allegations and the hazing experiences here in Ohio, you have to start talking with individuals, and you need to use them to help inspire a shared vision and to create change. Because you know, as an individual or as a professional, just talking to people that doesn't necessarily do as much as we look at peers. We look at students talking to their peers and saying we're not going to support hazing behaviors, we're not going to support binge drinking behaviors, we're not going to support creating cultures that support sexual assault or making people feel sexually worried in these behaviors, in these environments. So starting in that way.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I mean, overall, it was a really good presentation. I think you have all the experience. I think just in some areas, like you said at the beginning, like how when you started first joining a fraternity, how you went into detail about your journey.
Yeah.
I think you need to be a little more in detail when applying to jobs. Of like, and obviously it's going to be different when you do get a job and when you're applying because you're not going to talk about you would touch on when you first started in a fraternity, but really go in depth of like what you can bring to their university.
Definitely, that makes sense.
But yeah, it was good.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Are you able to like share that in your screen with me?
Yeah. I am trying to. One sec. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. It says I cannot start my screen share while the other person.
So I paused the share.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I paused mine.
You can't even share yours with me right now.
So I stop share.
I think I'm gonna leave the meeting real quick. Oh yeah, stop share. Do that. Okay.